Hello, welcome back to another live stream. Today we are going to be looking at how to use Grok to write stories. So bear with me. It's going to be interesting because I've only got one screen to work with. So we are. And it's telling me that I'm live. Got that there. I am now just going to quickly take a look to see how that looks. That looks okay. I can see the chat. All right. Did we just lose everyone? Yeah, I probably just did. Okay. I'm just going to carry on. Right. Oh, no, we got people back. Right, I already set this up ahead of time. First thing first that we need to know, we can put in PDF files for whatever projects that we're working on. So I've got a character profile for Captain Liberty here. It's one of my original characters. And I'm going to make a short out-of-canon story where he's having an intellectual argument with an absolute Karen, basically. Nothing serious, just like a simple short story that we're going to write with him. Now, there's an advantage to using PDF files because it can pull information from that. So everything about your character is tied specifically to his documents. I think you can upload up to 2 at a time. That's what it's like with the with Grok 2.0. Don't quote me on ChatGPT, but I assume there's a similar file limit for that. Do learn to take advantage of this, especially for long-form narratives that you might be writing. You can also ask Grok to generate a character profile based on what you've written so far. So let's make a start. It's usually easier to write in like form of question or request. Grok, let's write a short story. Hang on. Sorry. Captain Lib. Really need to learn that spell. Is he doing a press conference? Okay. So we set up the scene, but we can't just put it like that because it'll go off and do its own thing. So, but first of all, let's set up the location. Okay, let's set up the location. I'm going to put in brackets no story yet. This is a very specific command because I don't want it actually going off and writing a story before I've actually figured out what the location is going to look like and who the other characters are going to be. So no story yet. Okay. Don't have to worry too much about punctuation, but if you don't break things down into easy to understand sections, it will get confused. It'll jumble details about the place. Okay, it should be an indoor environment. Hang on. Environment. Let's see, after some kind of major battle. Okay. For the press. Prisons. Okay. I think for now we shall just go with that and see what we end up with. No story yet. This is the direct command. I set the location for Captain Lipsy's press conference at the Grand Auditorium in Washington, D.C. Okay? So it's telling us that what it's like. Okay, stately indoor venue, high ceilings, etc. So patriotic motifs, eagles, stars, laurel wreaths, reflecting its history as a gathering place for significant national announcements, rows of cushioned seats filled with eager reporters clutching notebooks. Yeah. Okay, so we set the scene, but now we need an incident. So we need a justification for this absolute Karen to basically bitch to the main hero. Okay. So the first need answers about, hang on, conduct against recent, need answers about his conduct in his how am I going to frame this? This is actually interesting. I think it's far ahead. The first need answers about his conduct. Hang on. In the recent battle against. What should I go with? Should I do Sky Pirates or something? Against Sky Pirates who terrorized the city yesterday. Okay. erase this. That will do for now. Okay, no story yet. Okay. Grand auditorium staying over here. The cat's not sure. Right. Age is framed by heavy need people curtains. Devices, right. Only urgent whispers of press corps are here for answers. Conduct interferes conversation of building scarred and citizens shaken. Okay. Well, so far that's a fairly good right. Okay. Let's shift gears and focus on an antagonist. Okay. Antagonist is a woman who is highly critical of heroes in general. Let's see. All the time complaining. She is, in a way, a social justice warrior. A social justice warrior. A liberal activist? Yeah. I'm going very stereotypical of this. She's an absolute Karen. And completely white. Actually, I'm not going to go completely white. Just white in skin tone. No story yet. Again, this is a specific command. Now I'm going to ask it to generate a character profile. And this is a command you can do. Now then, let's see what it gives us. Evelyn Warwick. Evelyn Warwick, gender female, race human. Oh, this is brilliant. It's actually reaching off of my profile template that I set up ahead of time. I'm gonna have to show you that. Ethnicity, American Caucasian. Alias number, detective smuggling color, the Crusader of Complaints. Ooh. Grok. You based, man. Age 34. Yeah. I mean, she is middle-aged. Independent journalist / activist. Power type? None. Relies on intellect, rhetoric, and social influence. Portland, Oregon, USA. Ooh. I bet she took part in the riots. Evelyn grew up in a progressive upper-middle-class household where she was encouraged to question authority, champion the underdog. A bright student, she studied journalism and political science at a liberal arts college, but her worldview hardened after witnessing what she perceived as unchecked abuses of power by blessed individuals during a chaotic superior intervention in her hometown. Disillusioned by the collateral damage and the hero worship that follows, she turned her sharp mind and sharper tongue against the very concept of superheroes. Now she runs a popular blog and podcast, The Unmasked Truth, as she dissects and critiques the actions of heroes like Captain Liberty, framing them as reckless vigilantes who destabilize society under the guise of justice. Let's see what Grok is going to describe it as. Oh, this is brilliant. Evelyn is of average height and weary frame. Her pale skin, often flushed with indigestion. Indignation, I think. During a fiery rant, her shoulder-length chestnut hair is perpetually tousled after she's too busy fighting the good fight to care about appearances. Her green eyes are piercing, always scrutinizing, her thin lips often curled into a skeptical smirk. She has a small tattoo of a broken crown on her left wrist, a symbol of her disdain for unchecked power. Right? She sounds like a vile Karen. She favors political utilitarian clothing, dark jeans, combat boots, oversized flannel shirts, paired with worn leather jacket and adornment with activist pins like "Power to the people" and "No heroes, no hierarchy." Her look screams grassroots rebellion, and deliberately contrasting the polished costumes of the heroes she despises. Sharp-witted, uncompromising, and fiercely independent, Evelyn is a force in nature when it comes to debate. She is deeply cynical about heroism, viewing it as a flawed, elitist system that prioritizes spectacle over accountability. Her passion for social justice often veneers into self-righteousness, and she is quick to assume the moral high ground, while she articulates and charismatic in her own while she's articulate and charismatic in her own way. Her relentless negativity and tendency to see conspiracies everywhere alienates even some of her allies. Evelyn is driven by a burning need to expose what she sees as the hypocrisy and danger of blessed heroes. She believes society has been blinded by their flashy powers and noble rhetoric, ignoring the real cost: destroyed lives, eroded freedoms, and a growing power imbalance. She wants to dismantle the hero-industrial complex and replace it with grassroots empowerment. Okay, she sounds like a real bitch. Abilities, investigative skills. A tenacious researcher, Evelyn excels at digging up dirt, piecing together patterns and spinning compelling narratives from fragmented evidence. Rhetorical prowess. Her biting commentary and knack for sound bites make her a formidable voice in public discourse, capable of swaying public opinion. Social media savvy, she wields an online following, using platforms like X to amplify her critique and mobilize support. Though she lacks superhuman powers, her sheer determination and refusal to back down makes her a persistent thorn in the side of heroes. Ooh. Role in the story. Evelyn serves as a vocal adversary to Captain Liberty and the Peacekeepers, challenging their legitimacy and actions at every turn. Her latest crusade targets the Sky Pirate battle, accusing Captain Liberty of endangering civilians with his reckless heroics, demanding transparency about the fragments of blessing. Oh, gee. Yeah, well, that's going to be out there now. That's how heroes in my world get their powers. And the Peacekeepers are sort of like a group of heroes that do exist. She embodies the growing unease among ordinary people about the role of blessed in society, giving a voice to the movement that questions whether heroes are saviors or threats. Her challenges? Isolation. Her uncompromising stance and abrasive demeanor push away potential allies, leaving her vulnerable. Bias. Her hatred of heroes sometimes blinds her to the genuine good they do, undermining her credibility with more moderate audiences. Danger. Her outspokenness puts her at odds with powerful figures and heroic and villainous alike. You might see her as a liability. Goals. Expose the truth to reveal the dark underbelly of heroism and hold blessed individuals accountable for their actions. Empower the powerless to shift society's reliance away from superheroes towards collective action and systemic change. Her notable events. The Portland incident. Her formative experience watching a hero intervention go awry, sparking her lifelong vendetta. The Sky Pirate Fallout. Her current campaign against Captain Liberty, using the recent battle as a rallying cry to demand oversight of Blessed's activities. Current status? Active. Evelyn is at the peak of her influence, and a latest expose on Captain Liberty gaining traction just as he prepares for his press conference in the Grand Auditorium. Oh dear. Well, she is a complex antagonist, not a villain in the traditional sense, but a relentless critic whose ideals clash with the hero archetype Captain Liberty represents. How's his profile? Do you want to flesh her out more, or jump into the story with her? I think we need to add to her backstory. We should add that she's a complete and utter hypocrite. One who would rather complain as opposed to helping people. It should be a fatal flaw. During the Sky Pirate attack, saw she saw some people get buried under she saw some people get buried under some rubble and blames Captain Liberty for not saving them while Byron is battling Sky Pirates. She could have saved them, but didn't. Okay, let's see. She was taught to challenge authority, advocate for the marginalized. Intelligence and political science, but her perspective shifted after witnessing a superior intervention in Portland that left destruction in its wake. Events was his obsession with Sky Pirates, where she accused capitalism of negligence despite ignoring her own inaction during the crisis. Yeah. Keyboard warrior. Ooh. Epoxy is a fatal flaw. Okay. Yeah, I think this is. Now we need a story. So, story time. Setting the scene, we have Captain Liberty taking the stage. The room goes quiet as he makes his speech. Make it a solemn speech. Reflecting the lost lives that day. Make it a solemn speech reflecting the lost lives that day. Again, these are prompts. I mean, you could literally write some dialogue for them to say, but I'm going to see what Grok comes up with. And here's another thing. you don't always have to use Grok's suggested dialogue, but you could use it as a base and be like, okay, this is how this is sort of what's being said, but how do we change that and make it more reflective of the characters we're trying to write? But Grok usually sort of gets the character personalities right of more established characters. I should know. Okay, so let's see fucking lost lives that day. And constant struggle of saving lives while detaining villains. First have questions regarding his. The first have questions regarding his conduct. And his decision to pursue the sky pirates over saving lives. Okay. So now we just put in an interesting dilemma. It's, does he go after the villains or does he save lives? Let's see. If she says it's sky pirates. I've been allowed to get away too long, and people always suffered. Yeah. What's the betting that it's going to actually pull this and actually make that dialogue? So I'm just going to say something along. So something along the lines. Along the lines of the sky pirates been allowed to get away for too long with their crimes, and people always suffered as a result. He made a choice to bring the villains to justice and end their reign of terror in New York. Don't bring in Evelyn just yet. Now, is a specific command because in its opening scene, I don't want to sort of railroading the whole thing. I need to sit in the background. She's brooding and biding her time. Okay. Okay. So now that is what we put in. So I gave it a specific command that is a story that we're doing here. And we've set the scene bit by bit. We've made it as simple for Grok to understand. We broke it up into different sections. And here's an important thing you have to remember. It's best to do them in chronological order, because otherwise it is going to get confused with the sequence of events unless you put something in like, this is a flashback. So let's see what we've got. The Grand Auditorium in Washington, D.C. hummed with restless energy. The golden glow of its chandeliers dimmed by the somber mood that hung over the room. The navy blue curtains framing the stage stood still, as if holding their breath, while the tattered banner bearing Captain Liberty's golden torch symbol swayed faintly. A silent testament to the battle that had raged just yesterday. Rows of reporters sat poised, the notebooks open, the cameras trained on the podium. Air thick with anticipation and unspoken questions. The faint click of shutters and the low murmur of speculation that fell silent as a tall figure stepped into the spotlight. Captain Liberty emerged, his white overcoat catching the light, its mini half cape slightly askew from the wear of combat. Its dark navy blue uniform underneath was scuffed, the golden accents dulled by dust and strain. But the torch emblem on his chest still gleamed with a quiet defiance. His ginger red hair was tousled, and his brown eyes, usually steady of resolve, carried a weight that aged him beyond his superhuman years. He adjusted his navy blue mask with its golden frame, and then gripped the edges of the podium. His shoulders squared as the room went utterly still. Hang on. He took a deep breath, his voice low, measured, cutting through the silence like a blade. Yesterday, New York faced a terror from the skies. Sky pirates descended with their machines of war, tearing through our streets and our homes, our lives. I stand before you not as a victor, but a man who knows the cost of that fight. Lives were lost. Good people, innocent people, buried under the rubble of a sea they called home. I feel every one of those losses in my bones, a weight that I'll carry to my last day. He paused, his gaze sweeping the room, meeting the eyes of the press with solemn intensity. Being a hero isn't about perfection. It's about choices, hard and brutal choices made in the heat of combat. Every day I wrestle the same struggle to save lives or stopping those who would take them. Yesterday, I faced that struggle again. The Sky Pirates weren't just a threat in the moment. They have been a plague on this city for far too long. For years they've raided, they've killed, they've escaped into the clouds, leaving suffering in their wake. People have always paid the price for their freedom. His hands tightened on the podium, knuckles whitening. I made a choice. I chose to pursue him, to bring him down, to end their reign of terror over New York once and for all. I knew the risk, that chasing justice, I might not reach everyone in time. I don't pretend it was easy. But it didn't cost, or that it didn't cost us dearly. But I believed, still believe, that stopping them was the only way to break this cycle of pain, to give this city a chance at peace. The room remained hushed, his words lingering like a heavy fog. Captain Liberty straightened his voice, softening, but no less firm. I don't ask for your forgiveness. I ask for your understanding. And I promise you this, I will keep fighting, keep choosing, and keep carrying that weight, so that one day no one else has to. A ripple of tension broke the surface as hands shot up among the press. Voices climbing one over another. A sharp-eyed reporter in the front row stood, his tone clipped. Captain Liberty, your pursuit of the sky pirates left civilians trapped under collapsed buildings. Why didn't you prioritize saving them instead of chasing the villains? Another journalist, a woman with a microphone thrust forward, added, your decision costs lives. How do you justify that to the families who lost loved ones yesterday? Captain Liberty's jaw tightened, his eyes flickering with a mix of pain and resolve. He leaned forward, ready to respond as the room braced for his answer. Well, I think we should hear what his answers are. He answers their questions. As Evelyn formulates her questions designed to attack his character and bring him down in the eyes of the public. Now let's see what we get here. Okay. Liberty stood firm at the podium, the barrage of questions hitting him like shrapnel. His brown eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but in focus. He raised a hand to quiet the rising tide of voices. The room settled, though the tension cracked like static. The sharp-eyed reporter's questions still hung in the air. Why didn't you prioritize saving them? Captain Liberty met the man's gaze directly. I don't have the luxury of seeing the world in absolutes, he began. His voice steady but laced with regret. Sky pirates weren't just a threat to those trapped yesterday. They've been bombing the city for months, killing dozens each time they slip away. If I'd stopped to dig through every pile of rubble, they'd have escaped again, free to strike tomorrow or the next day. I chose to end that threat. It wasn't a decision I made lightly. It's one that I'll question every night I close my eyes. He turned to the woman with the microphone. Her accusations, how do you justify that to the families? Still echoing. I can't justify, he said politely. His tone raw. Not to them. Not in a way that brings back what they've lost. All I can do is tell them why I fought. so no more families have to bury their own under the shadow of those pirates. I'm not here to erase their pain. I'm here to stop it from spreading. The press scribbled furiously, cameras flashing, but not all eyes were satisfied. In the back of the auditorium, half hidden by the sea of reporters, Evelyn Warwick sat with her arms crossed, her green eyes glinting like a predator sizing up its prey. Her leather jacket creaked faintly as he shifted, her lips curling into that familiar skeptical smirk. She didn't raise a hand, not yet. She was brooding, buying her time, her mind already spinning a web of questions designed to pierce Captain Liberty's armor and drag him down in the court of public opinion. Jeez, what a bitch. He's playing the martyr again, she thought, tapping her fingers against the notebook. All noble words and noble poses, but it's the same old story. Heroes prioritizing their glory over the people they claim to protect. She had seen it yesterday, standing on the sidelines as the Sky Pirates' bombs rained down. Captain Liberty soared after those of their airships while screams rose from the rubble below. She hadn't moved to help, hadn't even tried, but that didn't matter to her now. What mattered was the narrative she could craft, the chinks she could exploit. Her first question took shape, sharp and venomous. Captain Liberty, you say you ended the threat. What about the lives you didn't save? Were those people just collaterals to your grand crusade? It would hit him where it hurts, framing his choice as callous, his heroism as selfish. Another colder still. You got the power to fly, to lift steel like it's paper, yet you left civilians to die under that rubble. Is that the justice you promised, or just the cost of your ego? She twisted his own words, his talk of justice and peace, into a noose, letting the public see him as the hypocrite who valued victory over humanity. Evan leaned back, her smirk widening as Captain Liberty fielded more questions from the front. The press was hungry, but she was patient. Her moments would come, and when it did, she'd make sure every camera caught the cracks in his shining facade. Now, let's see. Should she strike? Yes. She should. Evelyn makes her move. And you know what? Probably tomorrow, I'll adapt this into a script. Maybe I'll sketch it out a little. Make it into like a little makeshift comic. I could probably do that live on stream for you. I mean, just thumbnails, not actual pencils and all that. And if anybody is interested, I'll put them up on Twitter or something and let everyone just all go ham with adapting it in their style. I mean, it'd be good practice for the rest of you. I mean, you want to if you want to practice making comic books, I'll just make it available. Free little template just to practice your craft with. Penciling, inking. If you'd rather do the thumbnails yourself, the script will be available. Would I be able to do it by tomorrow? I'll see. I'll see how far I get with that. Evelyn makes her move, and she doesn't hold. She doesn't hold back. She even mentions the civilian she mentions civilians that she saw trapped or in harm's way. Liberty let's finish as he thinks his answer through. Remarks. Savage remarks keep coming though. Okay. Now let's see what we get with this. Grand Auditorium burst of restless energy as Captain Liberty finished his response to a softer question about his next steps. The moment of the calm shattered when a voice cut through the room. Sharp, unyielding, dripping with disdain. Heads turned as Evelyn Warwick rose from her seat at the back. Her leather jacket creaking, her green eyes locked on the hero like a hawk zeroing in on its prey. She didn't wait for permission or a microphone. She didn't need them. Her words carried, loud and clear, silencing the murmurs. Captain Liberty, she began, her tone laced with mockery. You stand there talking about ending threats and hard choices. Well, let's talk about the choices you didn't make yesterday. I was there. I saw it all. Family trapped under a collapsed storefront on Fifth Avenue, screaming for help while you chased your precious sky pirates into the clouds. Were they just collateral to your grand crusade? Or did you not even notice them? A gasp rippled through the press corps, cameras swiveling to capture her words. Captain Liberty's expression didn't falter, but his brown eyes darkened. His hands on the podium, still on the podium as he let her speak. Evelyn stepped forward, her combat boots thudding against the polished floor, her voice rising with every step. You got the power to fly, to rip steel apart like it's tissue paper, she continued, her smirk twisting into a sneer. And yet you left those people to suffocate under rubble, left a kid I saw pinned under a beam, crying for his mom, while you played Sky Cop. Is that the justice you promised us? Or just the cost of feeding your ego? Damn. She needs to be taken down a peg or two. The room was electric now. The reporters scribbling furiously as Evelyn's savage remarks kept coming, relentless as a storm. She didn't pause for breath, didn't give him a chance to interject. You say the Sky Pirates have terrorized us far too long. Fine. But what about the terror you left behind? I saw an old woman clawing at debris, begging for somebody to save her husband, but you weren't there. You were too busy posing for the headlines, weren't you? Tell us, Captain. How many lives did your reign of terror? How many lives is your reign of terror worth? How many bodies do we stack up before you met you no better than the villains you chase? She sobbed, a few rows from the stage, arms crossed, her chest heaving slightly from the force of her trade. The auditorium was deathly quiet. Every eye darting between her and the captain. His face remained stoic, but his jaw tightened. A flicker of something. Pain, resolve, maybe both, crossing his features. He didn't interrupt, didn't lash out. He let her finish. His silence a stark contrast to her venom as he gathered his thoughts. Evelyn wasn't done. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a cutting whisper that somehow carried to every corner. You wear that torch like it means something, but yesterday it was just a prop. I saw those people, Captain. I heard them. You didn't. To spare us the noble speech, tell us why you really flew off. Because you wanted to win, not the rescue. The accusation hung heavy. Hunger, heavy and damning. Captain Lipsey's gaze met hers. Steady and unflinching. As the press held its collective breath, he took a slow, deliberate breath, his mind racing behind those brown eyes, formulating answers to the onslaught. The room waited, poised on the edge of his response. Now then, I think he needs to put this bitch in her place. He asks a simple question. Why didn't you help them? Why didn't you help him? He questions her inaction. That day. As he reminds everyone that he had to make a difficult choice. He had to make a difficult choice on whether or not to stop the Sky Pirates or save every other civilian. That was attacked that day. He also points out that after dealing with the pirates, that he did, in fact, help to rescue the innocents trapped. But not all of them. But not all of them could be saved. He argues that people like Evelyn could have made a difference. Could have made a difference and saved a few lives. But she didn't. She chose not to act. It has the goal to criticize him for his choices. He understands that families were affected by the attack. Yesterday. He says that families were affected by the attack yesterday. And they have every right to criticize him for his actions. Hypocrites like Evelyn don't. When they choose to do nothing at all. They choose to do nothing and still complain. Okay. Now, because I put this in quotation marks, it's going to make this into a specific line of dialogue. Be aware of that. So I've aired out what this scene is going to be like. He's challenging her. So she's at the podium. She's staring him down. He's staring her down. He's like, yeah, bitch, you ain't got a fucking leg to stand on this. You did nothing. And you can't say otherwise. Yeah, they don't. Hypocrites like Evelyn don't when they choose to do nothing and still complain. But I still complain when people like him are forced to choose how when people like him are forced to choose how they act in situations. Heroes aren't perfect. They never were. Okay, let's see what we get with this. He leaned forward. His brown eyes looking onto Evelyn Warwick with an intensity that made the room shrink. His voice, when it came, was calm. Almost too calm, carrying a weight that cut through her venom like a quiet blade. Why didn't you help? He asked. Simple question landing like a thunderclap. And you see, it made that into dialogue because I put quotation marks on it. Evan blinked, her smirk faltering for a fraction of a second. But he didn't give her time to recover. He straightened, his white overcoat shifting with the motion, and addressed her in the room with a clarity that demanded attention. You were there, Evelyn. You saw that family on Fifth Avenue. That kid pinned under the beam. The old woman clawing at the debris. You heard them screaming. And what did you do? Nothing. You stood there, watching, while I had to make a choice. A choice no one should ever have to face. Stop the sky pirates who've bombed the city for months, or save every single civilian caught in their attack that day. I chose to end the threat, to break the cycle of terror. Because if I didn't, they'd be back tomorrow and more would die. You see that is a very pointed question. It's a very good response. His gaze swept the press corps, his voice rising with a controlled passion. After I brought those pirates down, I didn't fly off to bask in glory. I went back, lifted rubble, pulled people out, carried them to safety. Not all of them could be saved. I know that. I'll live with that every day of my life. You, Evelyn, you could have made a difference. You could have reached out a hand, moved a stone, done something to save even one of those lives you were so quick to throw in my face. But instead, you chose to stand there, to judge, to wait for your moment to complain. He pointed a gloved finger at her, not in anger, but in accusation. You've got the gall to criticize me for the choices I made, for the impossible decisions I'm forced to wrestle with, when you chose to do nothing. Families lost loved ones yesterday. They have every right to question me, to hate me, to demand answers. And I'll face them head on, because I owe them that. But hypocrites like you don't get to sit in judgment. Not when you let those same people suffer while you crafted your next headline. Damn. Bitch is getting roasted. The room was still, the air heavy with his words. Captain Liberty's chest rose and fell as he took a steadying breath, his eyes never leaving Evelyn's. Heroes aren't perfect. We never were. We're just people. People with powers, sure, but still people. Trying to do what's right in a world that's never clean or simple. I made a call. It cost lives. It saved others. You made a call too, Evelyn. You chose inaction, so tell me, where's your torch? Where's your justice? Evelyn's face flushed red, her lips parting as if to fire back. But the weight of his words hung over her like a shadow. The press shifted uncomfortably, pens hovering over notebooks, cameras catching every flicker of her reaction. Captain Lipsy lowered his hand, his expression softening into something weary, but resolute, and waited, letting the silence speak for itself. Now, how would we follow that up? Because I know how I want this to end. So I'm going to have her make a weak retort. Okay, everyone weak retort as if he'll never know the pain that the families go through. But he just flies over her, landing in the middle. That's a really weird word to spell. In the middle aisle. With his back turned, to her, as if she wasn't worth looking at. His response: calculated. As he says that he does understand the pain and fear that families go through. Because he has a family himself. He worries about them every day and wishes for nothing more. Than to spend more time with them. Focus on simple joys of life. 5. Such as hard work, simple choice of life such as hard work and spending time with family. He goes to leave food. He goes to leave food in main door. His body silhouetted. So how do you spell it? God, that is a weird word to spell. Silhouetted by the bright light as he turns his head to look at her. As he says something along the lines of that. She'll never understand. She'll never understand those joys because all she does is complain. The world will move on without her. And the world will move on without her. She'll be nothing more than a bitter old woman. She'll be nothing more than a bitter old woman. Living in misery. And she'll be all alone. He leaves as she looks back as he's stunned. As the truth hits her hard. Yeah, I think that'd be a good way to cap it off. And here's the continuation. Evelyn stood frozen for a moment, her green eyes wide as Captain Liberty's words sank in, cutting deeper than she expected. The press watched, pens poised, as she scrambled to regain her footing. Her voice came out shaky, weaker than before, grasping at straws. You'll never know the pain those families feel, she spat, her tone more desperate than defiant. You're above it all, flying high where they suffered below. Before she could finish, Liberty turned, his white cloak overcoat flaring as he stepped off the stage into the middle aisle. He didn't look at her, didn't dignify her with a glance. His back was to her, his broad silhouette cutting through the sea of reporters as he moved with a deliberate grace. His flight lifting him just inches off the ground. The room held its breath, the faint hum of his power filling the silence. And then he stopped, hovering there, and spoke, his voice low and measured, each word calculated. I do understand that pain, Evelyn, he said, still facing away from her. I know it better than you ever will. I have a family, people I love, people I worry about every single day. I wake up fearing the moment some villain uses them to get to me, or the day I don't come home because I made a choice like yesterday. All I want, all I've ever wanted, is to spend more time with them, to live the simple joys, hard work, quiet meal, their laughter. But I don't get that luxury. I'll carry this torch so they can. He resumed his slow drift towards the main doors. Bright light from the hallway spilling into the auditorium, framing him in a stark silhouette. As he paused, turning his head just enough for her to catch a glint of his brown eyes beneath the navy blue mask. His voice softened, but it carried a cold, unyielding truth. You'll never understand those joys, Evelyn. All you do is complain, tearing at the world while offering nothing in return. The world will move on without you. You'll end up a bitter old woman drowning in your own misery, alone, because that's the life you've chosen. And with that, he turned away, his silhouette by the light, swallowed by the light as he pushed through the doors and left. The heavy thud of them closing echoed the auditorium, a final punctuation to his words. Evelyn stood rooted in place, her mouth half open, a retort dying on her lips. The truth of his words hit her like a physical blow. Her inaction, her hypocrisy, her isolation laid bare in a way that she couldn't deflect. The press turned their cameras on her now, capturing the stunned flicker in her eyes, the flush creeping up to her pale cheeks as she clenched her fists. But no words came. For once, the crusade of complaints had nothing to say. Left alone in the spotlight she craved, staring at the empty space where Captain Liberty had been. Okay, now let's do something useful you can do with Grok. Okay, so we got this story. I set up the structure how I wanted, and I didn't really have to re-edit much. Well, actually, I didn't have to edit at all. So now, normally if you had more characters, this is something that you would want to do occasionally, but you can go list the characters mentioned. If you were doing a longer form scene or story, and you've got like 2 to 3 dozen characters, you can do this at any time, and it will. But yeah. Fucking hell. Okay. Fuck. No. Did not want to reveal that too so soon. Mentioned in the story. I'm such a dumbass. But yeah, just be aware of that. I can't believe I did that. Ah, don't. Okay. Give me the themes. Give me the themes of the story. Yeah, I see. Okay, here the woven into Captain Liberty's press conference in his confrontation with Ellen Warwick. The burden of choice. The story explores the weight of difficult decisions, particularly those that Captain Liberty struggles to balance, saving individual lives against stopping a broader threat. His choice to pursue the Sky Pirates over rescuing every civilian underscores the impossible trade-offs heroes face, highlighting that no option is without cost. Hypocrisy and accountability. Evelyn's character embodies this theme, as her vocal criticism of Captain Liberty's actions is undermined by her own inaction during the crisis. The story contrasts her performative outrage with his tangible efforts, questioning who has the right to judge when they themselves fail to act. Heroism versus imperfection. Captain Liberty's admission that heroes aren't perfect drives this theme, challenging the idealized image of superheroes. The narrative presents heroism as flawed and human, defined not by infallibility, but by the willingness to confront tough realities and keep fighting despite the setbacks. Sacrifice and personal cost. The story dwells into the impersonal toil of heroism, Captain Liberty revealing his longing for a simpler life with his family, a life he sacrifices for the greater good. It's contrasted with Evelyn's self-serving bitterness, emphasizing what's lost in the pursuit of personal duty versus what's squandered in action. In the pursuit of duty, yeah. Public perception and responsibility. The press conference setting highlights how heroes are scrutinized by society, with Captain Liberty facing both justified grief from the affected families and opportunistic attacks from critics like Evelyn. It raises questions about who bears responsibility in a crisis: those who act imperfectly, or those who merely point the fingers. Isolation and legacy. Captain Liberty's parting words to Evelyn suggests a theme of legacy. He strives to leave a better world for others, while she risks fading into irrelevance through her negativity. His exit and her stern reaction underscore the isolating consequences of their respective paths. Justice versus cynicism. The clash between Captain Liberty's pursuit of justice, flawed as it may be, and Evelyn's cynical worldview, frames a broader tension. The story asks whether it's more meaningful to strive for an imperfect good or to tear down efforts without offering solutions. These are the themes intertwined to create a narrative that is less about clear-cut triumph and more about the messy human struggle beneath the cape. And mirrors held up to both the hero and critic. Okay, let me see if we go deeper into these. Let's see. Yeah, there's another thing you can do. Give me Evelyn's psychological profile. Here's the psychological profilations in the story and her established traits. Definitely something you can do at any point. I mean, or you can also go and say, Grok, why wouldn't the US government send out a task force to deal with the sky pirates? Why don't they get any criticism for their inaction? And again, because this will make you reconsider parts of your narrative if you this obvious entity do this, that, or the other. That is a great question. It digs into the world building dynamics of the story. Let's break it down logically based on the context we established and some reasonable assumptions about how the US system might operate in a world with superheroes like Captain Liberty and threats like the Sky Pirates. In this universe, the existence of blessed individuals like Captain Liberty, superhumans with extraordinary abilities like likely shifts government strategy, the US might have integrated heroes into its defense framework, treating them as specialized assets more effectively than conventional forces against unconventional threats like sky pirates. Task force of regular soldiers or even elite units might lack the firepower, speed, or adaptability to counter airborne pirates with advanced technology or supernatural capabilities. Captain Liberty, with his flight and superhuman strength, is a one-man army tailored for such a job. Why deploy a costly, slower task force when he's already on the scene? Jurisdictional and logistical challenges. Sky pirates operate from the air, striking quickly and retreating beyond reach. A government's task force, whether military or law enforcement, require mobilization, coordination, and resources. Example, fighter jets, drones, anti-aircraft systems. That would take time to deploy, and by contrast, Captain Liberty can respond instantly, as he did in New York. The government might see him as the first line of defense, with conventional forces as a backup that didn't have time to act in a specific incident. Political calculus. Sending a task force risks escalation. Civilian casualties from stray missiles or a prolonged aerial battle over a populated city could draw more public backlash than a single hero's intervention. The government might prefer to let Captain Liberty handle it, keeping their hands clean and avoiding direct accountability. If he succeeds, they share the glory. If he fails, he takes the fall, as we see in the press conference. Historical precedent. Captain Liberty's origins mention President Harding placing him in a program to combat crime after his transformation. I might actually change that, to be honest. Suggesting a long-standing policy of leveraging blessed individuals over traditional forces. Sky Pirates' reign of terror might be one of many threats that the government have outsourced to heroes, either by design or necessity, especially if these villains have evaded conventional pursuit for years. Resource allocation. Government could be stretched thin, dealing with other crises like Brexit-related incidents or international threats tied up to groups like the God damn it, Grok. Sky pirates, while dangerous, might not risk enough to warrant a dedicated task force when Captain Liberty is already active in New York. Just casually throwing out aspects of my universe. No, I won't be going into who the Emeki clan are. Why didn't they get criticism for their inaction? Focus on the visible hero. Liberty draws the spotlight. He's the one in the sky making split-second decisions. The public can see and judge. The government's inaction is less tangible. Bureaucratic delays or strategic choices don't make for dramatic headlines the way a hero flying off to fight sky pirates does. Everyone in the press zeroed in on him because he's the face of the response, not the faceless policymakers behind the scenes. Public perception of heroes versus the governments. In this world, heroes might be held to a higher standard than the government. Captain Liberty's powers and persona create an expectation of near perfection. He's supposed to save everyone every time. The government, by contrast, is seen as slow or impotent, even in our real world. Inaction might be shrugged off as par for the course. Evelyn's cynicism targets the Blessed because they represent a power she can't touch, while the government's failings are too mundane to feel her outrage. Evelyn's psychological profile shows she's fixated on heroes as a symbol of unchecked power. Criticizing governments wouldn't serve her narrative as effectively. It's harder to rally moving against a sprawling bureaucracy than a single cape-wearing figure like Captain Liberty. She blames him for not doing enough because it fits her crusade, while the government's absence is a secondary concern she conveniently ignores. Captain Liberty's own defense. In a press conference, he doesn't shift blame to the government, perhaps out of loyalty, duty, or belief that it's his burden to bear. Taking full responsibility, he deflects attention from any governmental shortcomings. The press follows his lead, focusing on his choices and rather than asking why no jets scrambled and why no National Guard units were deployed. Well, if they've been attacking multiple times over the course of months, there should be no excuse at that point. The story hints at Captain Liberty being a historical hero who set a precedent for blessed individuals serving society. This could mean that the public has grown accustomed to heroes stepping in where the government doesn't, normalizing their role as primary responders. Criticism might not arise because people don't expect the government to act swiftly in these scenarios. They expect Captain Liberty to. Tying it together, the US government likely didn't send out a task force because Captain Liberty was the faster, more effective option in a crisis requiring immediate attention or action. And their inaction escapes criticism because he's the lightning rod for the public and media scrutiny. Evelyn's attack on him and his response further sidelines any governmental accountability, keeping the focus on the hero-centric dynamic, etc. Right. So now I'm going to ask another question. If these attacks have been going on for months, as mentioned. When there be a task force set up over time to be deployed in the event of an attack. Additionally, wouldn't emergency services get criticism for not responding to the civilians in time. Okay, now we're asking a very fair question here. The attacks have been going on for a while, so there should be no excuse for not having a task force set up just in case. And emergency services are still a thing. So what's their excuse? Again, this is how you use AI in writing. Absolutely emergency service response, or lack thereof, could realistically draw scrutiny. See, the trick with storytelling is to keep things believable. Let's explore these points and how they could fit into the bold story, addressing why they might not have been highlighted yet, and how they shift the narrative. Why wouldn't there be a task force set up over time? Why there might be one. If the Sky Pirates were raiding New York for months, as Captain Liberty mentioned, it's reasonable to assume the US government or its local authorities would have developed a contingency plan. A dedicated task force could include military units, Air Force squadrons with fighter jets or drones stationed near key cities like New York, ready to scramble at the first sign of an attack. Specialized teams, a joint operation with the FBI, National Guard, or even a blasted specific agency, given this world's history of superhumans, trained to counter the pirates' tactics. Pre-positioned defenses, anti-aircraft systems, or radar networks to track the pirates' movements, reducing response time. Given the duration and severity of the threat, some level of preparation would make sense, given that Captain Liberty implies that their escapes have caused ongoing suffering. A task force could have been established after early attacks proved conventional police were outmatched. Why it might not have deployed during this attack, speed up the assault. The Sky Pirates hit and run style might still outpace the task force mobilization. Even with units on standby, launching jets or deploying troops takes minutes. Time Captain Liberty doesn't need. The attacks we see in the story could have been too sudden for the task force to engage before he took action. Dependent on Captain Liberty, the government has a task force and might still defer to him as the primary responder. His track record and superhuman capabilities could make him the default option, with the task force as a fallback that he didn't activate because he was already in the fray. Operational failure? Alternatively, the task force did exist but failed to deploy effectively, maybe due to bureaucratic delays, miscommunication, or the pirates jamming radars. This could explain their absence, but it wasn't mentioned because Captain Liberty doesn't shift blame. Narrative focus. The story centers on his personal choice, not systemic response. Task Force presence or absence might have been overshadowed by his decision to pursue the pirates, keeping the spotlight on him and Evelyn. Possible adjustment. Over months, a task force would likely exist. Let's go with the Skywatch Initiative. A joint federal-state operation formed after Sky Pirates' third or fourth raid. And it's equipped with rapid response aircraft and coordinates with heroes of Captain Liberty. During his attack, though, he might have been caught off guard or held back, assuming he'd handle it, leaving him to face the criticism alone. Won't emergency services get criticism for not responding in time? Well, they should. Trapped civilians, families under rubbles, kids pinned under beams would have been prime targets for emergency services like firefighters, paramedics, and NYPD rescue units. If they didn't reach these people quickly enough, especially with the attacks occurring over months, criticism would be warranted. Slow response. Debris and chaos from the Sky Pirates' bombs could delay ambulance or fire crews, leaving civilians to suffer or die. Lack of preparedness. After months of raids, emergency services should have had protocols, mobile triage units, heavy lift equipment, or evacuation drills. Yet the story implies they weren't saved in time. Resource strain. Repeated attacks might have overstretched New York's first responders, leading to fatigue or shortages hampered by their effectiveness. Everyone's vivid description of people trapped suggests emergency services didn't act fast enough, or at all, while Captain Liberty was fighting. This gap could easily fuel public outrage. Why they haven't been criticized yet? Captain Liberty as the focal point. His superhuman presence dominates the narrative. The press and Evelyn fixate on him because he's the powerful figure who could have saved everyone, overshadowing the quieter failures of the human responders. Humans get the glory and the blame. Everyone's biased, her vendetta is against blessed individuals, not the mundane systems. Criticizing emergency services wouldn't fit an anti-hero agenda, even if their inaction mirrored hers. She's laser focused on Liberty's ego rather than systemic flaws. Timing of the press conference, the story unfolds the day after the attack, when emotions are raw and action is on the hero who fought. Emergency services shortcomings might surface later, perhaps in the follow-up reports or from grieving families, once the initial shock fades. Assumption of efforts. The public might assume first responders did their best under impossible conditions, while Captain Liberty's choice to prioritize the pirates over rescue seems more deliberate and thus more culpable. Emergency services likely responded, but were overwhelmed. Say firefighters backed up Fifth Avenue too late to save the family everyone saw, or paramedics couldn't reach the pinned kid because he was surrounded. Criticism could be brewing off screen, which is not voiced in the auditorium yet. A reporter might have asked where the fire crews were, but Captain Lipsy's clash with Evelyn stole the moments. Task Force could. The government Skywatch initiative could have been mentioned in passing. Perhaps a reporter asking why didn't Skywatch scramble the jets yesterday. Lipsy might have responded, they weren't fast enough. I was. This keeps him accountable while hinting at a broader system that didn't deliver. Subtly shifting some blame without derailing his personal focus. Emergency services fatigue, Evelyn could have widened her attack. You flew off, and where were the ambulances, the fire trucks? Nowhere, because everyone counts on you. And you've let us down? Never seen my counter? I pulled people out after the pirates were down. And where were you while the sirens were still blocks away? It ties their inaction together, reinforcing his point about shared responsibility. Why it didn't happen? Yeah. Again, the story focuses on the confrontation, the personal philosophical clash over a systemic autopsy. Moments of attacks imply preparation, but a specific incident highlights his choice and not the fairies around him. Yeah. Right. No, basically, it's like type of things that you can do with the story. Well, with Grok, but I'll just show you one last thing that you can do. Summarize the summarize the story. This is just one little last thing you can do. I wonder. Hang on. Outline it as a short comic. Obviously, I wouldn't suggest doing this because Grok might not understand panel arrangements. Let's see. No. It's only going up to about 4 panels a page. Right, see, this is why you don't always do this. See, paneling is important. I could probably do this in less pages. Yeah. See, I would take the text that explaining the story itself earlier on, and then try and adapt it into comic book format myself. But I would not ask Croft to do it because it'll either stop at 3 panels a page or 4 panels a page. And it doesn't really explain how the panels work. See, and that's something that AI will never get right, ever. So yeah, I think that's all for today. Stop sharing. I'll just bring this up. This is just a template for what I would use to write a character profile with. It's very generic, but you can sort of copy this if you want. It's really handy. You can also get rid of things like the power type and the powers and abilities section, costume/appearance, physical description. Stuff like this can be really important when you're building a character. I mean, if you don't exactly have an image of your character, you can sort of give average heights, build, type of hair they have. I mean, messing around with Grok last year, so helped me sort of build a character profile like this. So that was useful. And it can sort of help you consider things that you might not have thought that you should put in. Like, what challenges are they currently facing? What would their notable achievements be like? What are the future goals? And what's the current status? Because you might write something along the lines of, right now they're currently deceased. Stuff like that is definitely important. I've been going for about 2 hours now. Bloody hell. I know I didn't really get many people watching, probably only 1 or 2. But if you're watching the replay of this, I implore you, please comment down below. Let me know what you think. Do you want to see me adapt that into an actual proper comic book script? I mean, I can if you want. I could leave a link of that in the description so you can download it. I could leave the character profile for you to download as well so you can use that in your projects. Again, let me know. Anything that helps you make your stories better is always a good thing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Yeah, end the stream.